Good afternoon and welcome to our second Livable Cities Lab. I am Guillermo Luz, Chairman of the Livable Cities Challenge and Chief Resilience Officer of the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation, or PDRF, the country's major private sector coordinator for disaster risk reduction. I'll be your host and moderator for today. Let me first acknowledge the mayors who are joining us today, and I'm happy to see a number of them coming back for a second time from our first lab 2 weeks ago. Mayor Juan Carlos Medina of Vigan City, Mayor Bernard D. of Kawayan City, Isabela, Mayor Lani Revilla of Bacoor City, Mayor Lourdes Catakis of San Pedro City, Laguna, Mayor Jennifer Tan of Tangub City, Misamis Occidental, Mayor John Yap of Tagbilaran City, Mayor Lucilo Bayron of Puerto Princesa, Mayor Francis Palanca of Victoria City, Mayor Richard Gomez of Ormoc City, Mayor Eric Singson of Candon City, Mayor Rowena Tuason of Masbate City, Mayor Oscar Moreno of Cagayan de Oro City, and Mayor Webster Letargo, Municipality of Gumaca, Quezon. Thank you, mayors. Thank you for joining us, and thank you all for taking time to join us for this webinar. Livable Cities Challenge and the League of Cities of the Philippines, in partnership with Globe Telecom, are pleased to present the Livable Cities Labs, a series of webinar sessions to deliver information, knowledge, ideas, and insights for better solutions for your city. Today's lab will focus on e-commerce and how MSMEs can shift and combine their traditional brick-and-mortar businesses with an e-commerce platform. MSMEs, as you know, make up more than 95% of businesses in the Philippines and account for roughly 2/3 of employment. With the country under various forms of quarantine and lockdown for 5 months now, accessibility to businesses by both its own workers and customers has severely constrained economic activity. Given this condition, how can businesses, especially retail businesses, remain in contact with their customers and deliver their product? More importantly, how can government support businesses in this time of COVID? This session hopes to address these and other questions on e-commerce. We've assembled a panel of speakers to address these challenges. Now let's start with our first speaker. To give us an industry perspective on the SME challenges and triumphs in the face of a pandemic, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Frances Kaluya. Frances is Globe My Business's Industry Marketing Manager for hotels, restaurants, and cafes. She has been a marketer for over 7 years now and has extensive experience in digital marketing, having worked in different industries. As part of Globe My Business, Frances empowers Filipino entrepreneurs with the right business knowledge, tools, and solutions to help them succeed. Let us please welcome Frances Kaluya.
Thank you very much, Bill. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking your time this afternoon to join us today. I'll be sharing with you a couple of SME insights. So if you're an SME in the audience, I'm sure it's something you can really relate to, as well as how e-commerce can help address these concerns coming from business owners, coming from our SMEs, and what Globe is doing in support of SMEs nationwide. I want to start my presentation with a quote that we got from one of the SMEs we were able to interview over the past couple of months. She said, there is a great deal of confusion among small business owners about what we can do and what we should be doing as employers. So this is really something that summarizes the experience of business owners during this pandemic. They are confused, scared, worried about the business that they have worked so hard to put up. And this extends beyond just, the day-to-day operations of business owners. SME sentiments loom around helplessness and isolation during this crisis. They worry about their safety. How do I provide employees with multifaceted protection? Not just physical protection. How do I make sure their source of income is protected? How do I make sure I extend this protection to their families or the people that they provide for? Also, business owners have been worried about how they can support affected employees and ensuring that if they do get sick, that they have access to treatment. Also, of course, our business owners are thinking about how they can observe, health and hygiene protocols in their office premises. It's no surprise that SMEs are also worried about business continuity. They're trying to think about how they can best assess the risks that this pandemic has brought to their business, and how they can manage with a contingency plan. In my experience, a lot of the business owners that we work with, this is actually their first time to set up a very detailed contingency plan, because business has been pretty good so far. They've been successful in their plans, but now they had to suddenly shift because of the crisis. No? And also, of course, taking the appropriate measures for when they're able to operate more normally again. So this means pivoting plans to ensure immediate sales conversion. So once I'm able to reopen, say I'm a restaurant owner, diba? We want to be able to convert immediately to sales so that I can continue providing for my employees, I can continue to pay for rent, for all the other costs that come with running a business. The last pillar is actually something that is a little bit more tricky for people to navigate, for SMEs to navigate in particular. You know? So first is managing stress and the uncertainty of not being able to estimate when I'll be able to open again. Of course, there's guidance from the government. LGU, I'm sure, has played a critical role in clarifying, how and when businesses are able to open. But at the end of the day, we don't know what's coming up in the next few months. And so that causes some stress and anxiety with the business owners. Also, in terms of morale, SMEs should also be thinking about how they can help manage their employees in terms of their well-being, their anxiety as well, and the possibility that they might end up losing their jobs, given that a lot of small businesses now are remaining closed. Lastly, our business owners are also worried that after this pandemic, after this crisis, the demand for their product might go low, might be lower than it was before, because consumer habits have changed, the way people spend money have changed. And so that's something that they also have to think about. No? Aside from these things that I have mentioned so far, in terms of the business side of things, there are three major concerns that cuts across all SMEs during this crisis. So first of all is workforce management. So if I am a business owner, I may be experiencing labor shortages. My employees can't come to work because of limited public transportation, or because they live in another city where quarantine implementations are quite different from where my business actually is. On the other hand, I also have to balance, if I close shop now temporarily, how do I save the jobs of my current employees who have served me so well over the past few years? Supply chain disruption is also a major concern. Some of my usual suppliers might be closed, might limit their operations. And so that would lead me to a shortage of my supplies, of my ingredients that I need if I'm a restaurant. So that's something that needs to be addressed so that businesses can operate smoothly. And lastly, of course, is demand planning. I touched a bit on this in my earlier slide, but consumer behavior, because consumers themselves are also experiencing loss of income. They're fearful that they might get sick if they go out and transact with businesses. They've been spending less. And so as a business owner, how do I make sure that demand for my product and service remains high during and after the pandemic? I identified so many different concerns and sentiments coming from SMEs. What it really boils down to is it's difficult to choose and focus, where do I start? As a business owner, what do I focus on? And I think that's why it's important that we have venues like today, where the government and the private sector can come together and identify how we move forward. No? The main topic of today is e-commerce, and I think that's a very powerful tool that we can all harness to survive and recover after this pandemic. So I'll shift my presentation a little bit, and over the next few slides, I'll talk about e-commerce, the online potential for Filipinos and business owners in the Philippines. I'll start with the Philippine digital landscape. This is a study that was conducted last Feb, and it was actually before the lockdown. So these numbers, while they're already high, are expected to climb even more, given that people have been staying at home, they've been online more, getting their news, updates, and critical information from the internet. No? As of Feb 2020, we already have 76 million active online users in the Philippines. And in terms of mobile subscriptions, because mobile is still king, I think in the Philippines, we have over 173 million. So out of the 100 million or so Filipinos, this means that a lot of us actually have more than one mobile subscription. I myself, I have a personal line and then I have a separate one for work. And in terms of daily time spent on the internet, we are at close to 10 hours online before the pandemic hit. No? Again, I mentioned that these numbers likely have gone up during the past few months given the different implementations of quarantine in the country. Now, what these numbers will translate to in terms of impact on business is that it's influencing a rise in e-commerce. Let me now share with you a few stats on e-commerce. 91% of online Filipinos have actually visited an online retail store on the internet using any device. So some of them might have used their laptops, their computers. Some of them might have been on their mobile phones. And 76% of them have actually purchased a product online. So no longer are we limited to, checking the internet for what products are available from this business, but we're actually now transacting. I remember a few years back, the trend was I'll check out an online store for the products, but then I would still prefer to buy it in store because as Filipinos, I think we're a little bit more traditional in that sense. But the past few months really have fueled this appetite for purchasing products online. In terms of the top industries, we're looking at video games, electronics, fashion, and beauty. But again, because people have been staying at home, we're not encouraging, frequent trips to the grocery or supermarket. The top industries might probably have changed a little bit more towards groceries, personal care, things that you would need day to day for use at home. In terms of the top 3 e-commerce sites, of course, there's Lazada, Shopee, and Facebook Marketplace. For payment methods, we are still largely cash on demand, cash on delivery, and bank transfer. Credit card penetration remains low at 2%. Out of all these numbers that I presented, I think what we have to take note of today is that pre-COVID, only 2% of SMEs are actually selling online. So there's a lot of opportunity for our local businesses to harness the power of e-commerce and start selling online to be able to reach more people and adapt to the new normal. Now, I'd like to do a little throwback to when we started going into quarantine last March, because I think that's where we really felt the impact of COVID-19 for small businesses. No? Of course, we remember that last March we started, social distancing was a big thing. There were limited business operations. Malls were closed down. Dine-in was not allowed. Tourism activities in general were disrupted. And so businesses had to start shifting to the new normal from a physical brick and mortar store to something that people can easily access online. And so, due to COVID-19, 23% of the Philippine population is actually now spending more time shopping online. And also, the industry as a whole, e-commerce industry as a whole, is expected to increase currently from $1 billion in 2019 to 5 to $6 billion by 2025, of course, fueled by the pandemic. So, given everything that I've talked about so far, I think that now is really the right time for all our businesses, for us as a country, to invest in e-commerce, because that's really a way for us to adapt and survive in the new normal. Of course, the importance of e-commerce, we already understand it. It's something that we have to do. But more than just allowing SMEs to sell online, e-commerce also enhances the customer experience. It gives customers a way to discover businesses that they can transact with. It provides them with an ordering platform. A lot of e-commerce tools will allow for cashless payment. It's also easier to track your order if it's out for delivery, if it's being shipped by the seller, if you are on an e-commerce platform. And of course, it provides our customers, our consumers, a way to give ratings and feedback for the seller and benefit from loyalty programs. And I think this is also where Globe My Business can come in, because we are every Filipino entrepreneur's partner. So whether you're just starting out or matagal ka na nagnenegosyo and you're already an established business, Globe My Business is there for you to help you navigate technology and take advantage of this to create your success. We offer more than just mobile and internet products, but also have several solutions that can help SMEs succeed. The last part of my presentation, I'll take you through what we've been doing the past couple of months at Globe My Business to help out our SMEs to navigate the new normal brought about by COVID. So first off, of course, we took a look at the products that we're offering, and we really worked hard to pivot these business solutions. So on the screen here, I've shared Amber, which is an SMS blast solution. What we did during COVID was we doubled the number of allocated SMS that business owners can send out through Amber without necessarily doubling the price. We also offered an exclusive Consulta MD package for Globe My Business subscribers. So Consulta MD is a very, very relevant tool, especially in light of COVID. It can enable your employees to seek medical advice from professionals with a simple phone call. No? So if I want to, as a business owner, I want to keep my employees safe, Consulta MD can definitely help with that. And of course, we also still have our Rush loyalty solution. So we've been working closely with the Rush team to pivot it into an e-store. So more than just a loyalty solution for business owners, Rush can now serve as an e-commerce tool for businesses. We've also been working nonstop to provide the right information and education for SMEs through our online business consultation caravans. We've had several runs over the past few months with topics ranging from business registration to tourism. We work with the DOT for this. We also constantly work with DTI to make sure that our SMEs are equipped with the right knowledge and education to survive and thrive. We did an advocacy campaign. This is actually one of the earlier responses of Globe My Business for the pandemic now. So what we did here was we purchased food packs from SMEs and delivered them to the frontliners of other SMEs. So for instance, here we purchased food from Dotonbori and delivered it to the frontliners of Tri-City Medical, both of which are our valued clients. We understand as well that during the pandemic, it's hard to get word out there that you are open if you're a small business. And so earlier on, back in April and May, what we did was featured businesses who were open at the time of ECQ on our Facebook page. So everywhere from Metro Manila to Davao, Cebu, we really did our best to cover as many regions as possible with this promotion on our Facebook page. The last effort coming from Globe My Business is really supportlocal.ph. It's an online business directory and business matching site. It's map-based so that you can easily see which SMEs around you are able to service you. So if, for example, I'm a retail store, I'm looking for a specific supplier because my usual supplier can't service me at the moment, I can use this tool so that I can find SMEs I can work with. Also, I'm able to advertise my business for free for consumers in my area. This can also be a platform for me as a business owner to get consolidated and relevant updates coming from Globe, coming from the IATF, coming from my own LGU. This can serve as a single platform for that. And of course, it can help me unlock wonderful perks from partner brands. So I invite all of you today to check out supportlocal.ph to sign up and see how this can help you achieve your goals for your business. Now, before I end my presentation, I just have one last slide. And this is really something that I want to leave with you guys today. So now more than ever, businesses should obsess about the customer. You make sure that no matter what happens, you're able to provide excellent customer service. It ties in very closely with our theme for e-commerce now because people are now shopping online. Your customers are now shopping online. So make sure as a business that you're also there to continue to service them. Fortunately, nowadays, technology makes it easier for entrepreneurs to do so. Thank you so much for listening to me over the past couple of minutes. I would like now to introduce to you our next speaker. He is a valued Globe My Business customer. He's been an inspiring business owner for us at Globe My Business. And he actually discovered his passion for ice cream making just fairly recently, having been immersed in the corporate world for almost 2 decades as the Chief Executive Officer and President of Asian Vision Cable Holdings Incorporated. Paco graduated from the University of St. Thomas in Texas with a bachelor's degree in marketing and earned a master in entrepreneurship degree from the Asian Institute of Management. He is among the recipients of the Kini Bini Award in 2013 while attending a short course on ice cream making at the famed Penn State Berkeley Creamery at the Pennsylvania State University's College of Agricultural Sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, the brainchild behind the much raved about Carmen's Best Ice Cream, let's all welcome Mr. Francisco Paco Magsaysay.
Thank you,
Hi,
Francis.
Paco.
How are you? Thank you for such a great introduction. Hello also to Bill and also the mayors and the participants of this webinar. Well, just to touch a little bit on our background, we're a business that started, it was incorporated in 2009 under the name of Carmen's Best Dairy Products. And we started selling premium ice cream in the market in 2011. So, the last few years have been good for us in terms of market awareness and growth. We've reached a certain level where people know about us. They've tried our product, and we were quite shocked the past few months when during the first month of the lockdown, mid March, up to now, a big part of our business has changed. Our primary market before was restaurants, coffee shops, hotels, resorts, and even airlines. And now, it's a very different market that we're facing now. We understand how difficult it is for our business partners, what they're going through, sometimes even much more difficult than what we're going through. So we understand what's happening, and we've decided to look at selling through community resellers. We noticed there's been a shift in how people purchase goods and services, through their community, buying vegetables or fruits or seafood has changed in the past few months. I think the rise of the Viber groups, the Facebook groups, and of course also e-commerce. People are buying and using services in a different way. So I think the trend now is to work more locally or per village or per subdivision. That's our approach. Be specialized in what you're doing. Like we're specializing in ice cream and coming up with different lines of ice cream. Like we've recently come out with an alcohol infused ice cream, and and also maybe a more masa type of ice cream, which is a lower brand. You know, it's scary what's happening. As much as possible, we don't want to close the company. We've been doing this for the last 10 years. We have about 40 people in our staff, and it would be sad if we, you know, if we close our company down. So we're doing our best to survive what's happening, keeping our heads above water the next few months with all the obligations we have from, you know, the loans that we've gotten from banks and you know, the employees' compensation and their benefits. We were trying to keep it as much as possible all intact. So it's a difficult time, you know. Hopefully, more of our SME friends can survive what's happening now. Although I know it's what's happening now is it's so new to everybody. You know, it's not like anything we've experienced before. So I think people who are in the business world have to be adjusting to what's happening, adjusting to how people are changing their behavior, and just to keep their heads above water. We're lucky that there are a lot of options on going on the e-commerce platform. You have groups like Shopify that makes it easier for small businesses like us to accept credit card payments. We've chosen to work with the 917 Ventures Group, which is a globe group. They're helping us set up our e-store, our e-commerce store. It's just a few weeks, and the great thing about it is it ties in logistics with our e-store that we're putting up with Globe. And you know, for the ice cream business, the logistics is so critical because our product has to be frozen the whole time. In terms of how the government can support us, is there are businesses that need permits and licenses. So if I think that was touched upon by the last SONA, where we heard about how difficult it is for cell companies to get you know, so many licenses and permits to put up one cell tower. So if you know, these restrictions or these steps into opening or, you know, growing your business can be made easier by government, that would be a huge help for the businesses. And also some sort of reprieve or some sort of reduction of taxes, like real estate taxes, would greatly help us as well. So I hope that you know, speaking on behalf of the SMEs and just business in general, we're trying our best to stay alive and to, you know, keep people employed and keep them out of the streets. So thank you so much. The ice cream business came about because my father and his friends started a dairy farm. And they had a problem of excess milk and cream. We couldn't sell the milk fast enough. It was getting spoiled. So while traveling, I noticed there was a growing trend in premium ice cream. We weren't making premium ice cream in the Philippines yet, so I figured, why don't we start one?
Thank you, Francis, for the insights on e-commerce and the shift in consumer behavior. And thank you, Paco, for your description of what you've had to go through at Carmen's Best. I think you brought up a good point about how you've shifted to move to community resellers, to open up new channels because your institutional channels had slowed down quite a bit. I think your description of your move to create your e-store, your logistics, and your payment system is something that is going to work well for you. I understand, you know, I completely appreciate your call, your appeal for help from government in the form of just simplification of licenses and permits and tax breaks like on real property tax and things like this, because I think we need to extend as much help as we can to MSMEs. And finally, I like how you've looked at your product and made adjustments to your products. And I'm happy to hear in particular how you've began to take a look at your liquor-infused ice cream that sort of connects the two of my favorite food groups, ice cream and liquor. So I think that's something for all of us to look forward to. Now I'd like to move to our next speaker to give us an insight or an overview on how technology and innovation can fuel e-commerce rise in the new normal. Uh, I think if I were to look at it, it's not just e-commerce for businesses, but in fact, e-commerce for cities. If I were to take a look at cities and LGUs, municipalities included, as an enterprise, because I think there's a potential here for technology to fuel some form of digital transaction, not only for businesses, but for cities. It's my pleasure to introduce Justin Yap, Head of Acquisition for Non-Traditional Merchants from the GCash Offline Payments Group. Let's please welcome Justin.
Thank you, Sir Bill, and good afternoon to everyone in attendance, especially our mayors, our LGU representatives, and our MSMEs owners and representatives who are here today. So, as mentioned by Sir Bill, I am from GCash, and most of what I will be presenting to you this afternoon is more on how GCash can enable payments collections with regards to businesses or even for governments. So as mentioned by Frances earlier, there are certain shifts that have happened due to what the effects of the community quarantines and of course our new normal. So how we have enabled other businesses and other LGUs to cope with all of the transfers from physical types of operations to a more digital way of doing business. I will lay out some of them here, and hopefully we can learn from some of the examples that I will be presenting. So the service is called in general the GCash Scan to Pay. So before that, a little backgrounder on what on GCash as an organization. So it's under the corporate name of Mint, and we're fortunate to be supported by investors who share the same vision of financial innovations for businesses. So Globe, the #1 telco in the Philippines, has a stake, as well as Ant Financial, a Chinese company more popularly known as one of the subsidiaries of the Alibaba Group. And of course, our mother company, the Ayala Corporation, is also a stakeholder in GCash. So a few stats. We have 23 million users as of our last check with in March, and 75,000 QR merchants, as well as 32,000 cash-in points wherein they fund their GCash wallet. So for those who are not familiar, GCash already has an app, and it's a mobile wallet wherein you store your money there, and you have a lot of features in which you can do transactions with your funds. So one of the examples is buy load. So basically, it's just buying load, and then it gets deducted. The amount of load you buy gets deducted from your available balance. Same with pay bills. You're paying your bills via your phone, mostly utility bills. The payment is made while deducting the funds from your account. Send money is also a similar experience. So it's sending money from one GCash account to another. For shopping online, it's leading towards the payment acceptance in platforms. Most of what I will be discussing is the scan QR, or if you were familiar, during the pre-COVID days, you'd see some stores where there's a GCash QR code card at the cashier. So this is what most of the discussion will involve. So it's creating a cashless ecosystem for a smoother, safer, and more secure payment experience. So this is how the QR code looks like. There's the merchant name over here, and then it's a unique QR code that is issued to a merchant. So merchants can accept GCash for more secure and safer payments, and customers can pay conveniently using their mobile phones, whether remotely or face-to-face. So a little description of how the customer journey looks like. So customer opens their app and chooses GCash payment option of scanning to pay. The merchant will provide the QR code for the customer to scan. So once the customer scans it, they input the after the QR is read by the phone's camera, the customer will input the amount to be paid. And then once the amount is sent, both the GCash user and the merchant will receive SMS notifications of the transaction. So this is what the SMS notification looks like. You have paid, for example, 1 peso to RQR demo on June 25th. So there's a date stamp and a time stamp as well as the information on the remaining balance of the customer, since the deduction has already happened. For the merchant, you will get a similar notification. GCash scan to pay demo has received that 1 peso from the payer, same date, same time, and a matching reference number. So basically, the logs are on both sides of the transaction. For the merchant, after the day is ended, there is a settlement and reporting. So the transfer to the wallet is real time once the payment is done. All of the payments are accumulated throughout the course of the day and then are swept to a bank account on the next banking day. So there's also a consolidated report daily sent to the merchant for them to track all of their GCash transactions. The commercial model for this is operating on a merchant discount rate. So that's the fee charged by GCash for the use of the scan to pay service. The starting rate is at 2%. So what happens is this fee is deducted upon the sweeping of the funds from the mobile wallet to the nominated bank account of the merchant. So basically, from a sales perspective, if it's GCash or e-money, the sales already go directly to your bank account and not have to be deposited by your cashier or your frontliner, etc. So just a little flow illustration on what happens. So the user conducts a scan to pay payment. The funds, so let's have an example of 100 peso payment, no? Then it goes to that 100 pesos goes to a virtual wallet. Then on the next banking day, all the accumulated transactions, like if everything in your store costs 100 pesos, all that 100 pesos in the virtual wallet gets swept to a nominated bank account that's under the merchant's name then, minus that MDR, or that fee that we charge for the service. So there's also a direct to wallet option. This option is more of available for more informal merchants, those who are undocumented, like vendors, tricycle drivers, taxis, who are, we could also categorize them under the self-employed subset. So there's an option for them also to have a QR, but it's direct to their wallet, and they can either withdraw it, transfer it to a bank account if they are banked. And right now, the charges for that are still being determined by our policy teams. Okay, so the new normal has shown us that there is some innovation on the side of the MSMEs and other merchants as well. We are seeing a lot of usage of what we call scanning on screens, no, in the new normal. So there's scanning QR. So a lot of the digital QRs we issue right now are being posted on social media, or if depending on the transaction, some merchants send an email to their customers saying, okay, you may pay us via this QR. And they also have internal or instructions on how the payment will proceed step by step. So that's one option, scanning over, let's say you have your laptop and you're viewing your favorite, let's say Carmen's Best Facebook page, and then they post their QR there. You can scan over your laptop screen, opening your phone, and then the payment will proceed. Another common practice for businesses right now is those plastic barriers, diba? Your transparent barriers in your stores. So it's also a safer option for us to have a QR where we don't need that basket where we put cash. Yes, it minimizes the contact, but we can't really call it contactless payment. So another offering of a safer solution is, of course, our the QR payments that we are offering. Another alternative is also storing the QRs of your suking tindahan in your smartphone gallery. And when you want to pay them, there is an import QR function in the app stating, okay, you activated the scan to pay, and then there's a button there that says, okay, import QR, and then you find the proper QR in your gallery, and then it will be as the same as just scanning the QR in front of you. So those are the alternatives that we're seeing in our current customers or clients. So just a few examples on how the adaptation or the shift from a physical marketplace to a more virtual setting. Just grabbed a few screens from our clients. So like these ones, they're posting the QRs, and some of them have a per branch QR for easier accounting of all the sales that are going in. So they're announcing, and then you notice some of the posts or ads that have specific instructions on how to use the QR and how to report your proof of payment for the transaction to push through. Others are more visual, so they're showing their delivery person having a lanyard type QR card that they can take anywhere and receive contactless payments. So you see, this is more than our minimum health standard of 1 meter, I would surmise. Now, so yes, it can be done. And of course, another example of how the instructions are always important, because it's internal also to the adjustment of the merchant and the flow of their operation, that they issue as well the examples that they want or the instructions that they want. Schools have also been approaching us with regards to their QR. Again, we're seeing it's a posting of the QR and specific instructions on how to go about your enrollment and payment. So yes, they're an emerging sector for us. We haven't been in a lot of discussions with schools before the pandemic, but of course, necessity being the father of innovation, they have also adapted to what they need to do to get things going. Okay, so just to highlight a little of the versatility of the QR. So pwede siya, tricycles, taxis have also adopted it. The stores, if you can see the background, there's that plastic barrier, but that does not prevent the scanning of the QR, no? So also kiosks and vendors. So why choose GCash? No? As mentioned, it's low cost and versatile. We have a competitive MDR rate that starts at 2%. We can also note that there are ways to negotiate a lower QR. No, but we could discuss that once the inquiries come in. No? It depends a lot on the industry and the type of business that we can when we discuss. No? So there's no setup or lock-in fees. Of course, it offers contactless, remote, or cashless payment experience. No? It is efficient, safe, and secure. So we're minimizing your cash handling. Sometimes overlook some safety measures. Being cashless is an additional safety measure for our personnel. The bank sweeping minimizes exposure of funds as well as your frontliner. So if no need to bring physical cash to the bank or back to the office. So it keeps us safer, both the money and our personnel. No. GCash is an e-money platform licensed and regulated by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So any other issues that might arise can be covered by BSP regulations. So of course, we're also offering you a gateway to that to those 20 million GCash base, as well as that digital space wherein you can accept the payments via the internet space. No, exponential growth with more partners and more GCash users. And also there's that acceptance of the G credit, which we have as a financial services. So not only do GCash users pay you with their funds, sometimes pag medyo kapos, they have an option to borrow funds from our G credit financial service, which increases the tendency to have a little more like growth, bigger basket size, or instead of waiting for payday, they can already do their purchase with you. So it keeps what we want, diba? It's the economy is moving, not as much as you want to, but we just want to keep it moving. So this is also another service that enables that, our G credit service. So I think part of the question naman siguro on your minds is how to onboard GCash. So for sole proprietors, there are 3 GCash requirements. There's a MOA on the service, a memorandum of agreement, application form, and a branch enrollment form to fill out the details on how the funds will transfer to the bank, what's going to be the name of the merchant, reflecting in the transactions, etc., where the reports will be sent. So there are also government issued requirements wherein as part of being a regulated body by the Bangko Sentral. But those requirements in blue, we are applying it from a risk reduction standpoint wherein pwedeng to follow itong other requirements, no? So for corporations, as there are more identifying documents to be checked by our onboarding teams, we have the same 3 Gcash requirements plus, of course, the notarized SEC certificate, etc. So government ID of the CorpSec, because of course, the identity checking is different for corporations din naman. For inquiries and applications, okay, I'll give some time to screenshot this. And if you miss this out, we have people in the chat rooms that can provide this for you. No? So for those who want QR acceptance to be enabled for their business, there's an email address, the I want Gcash QR at mint.xyz. Yes, medyo it's uncommon, yung dulo, .xyz, but yes, that is our official email suffix, no? Or you may also visit this link. So you can screenshot this whole slide for all of those details, no? For LGU or government offices, you may email me directly at justin.yap@mint.xyz, no? So now, I also mentioned government, no? So we will be shifting to a more government-centered application of the QR service. Okay, so it's about LGU payments or government offices in general din, no? So back, increasing demand for cashless payment solutions given the current events, diba? But of course, sometimes you're asking yourself, what does a cashless LGU really mean? Is it a cashless city hall or a provincial capital or town hall, diba? Is it a cashless public market, public transport? Some LGUs I've talked to, they're always mentioning the Makatizen type of execution where the citizen ID is also a ATM card, no? So we're trying to determine a lot of that, and we came up with some offers that might be good for a starter cashless LGU, no? Of course, the cashless trend, we're seeing it in the news naman, di ba? You can't pay cash, no? It's because it's also a transmitter of the virus, no? Disbursement of financial aid. So we see pag physical disbursement is all those lines and social distancing is hard to enforce. So that's why there's a trend into using cashless wherein all the disbursements can be received like in the comfort of your home or while being quarantined and not have to be in a single physical location. So of course, the pandemic has introduced us to new terms like social distancing, ayuda or aid, community quarantine. Businesses have been divided into essential and non-essential. So there are classifications. So a new normal would need a new type of LGU, diba? Or a new adjustment for the LGU. So we came up with the Gcash and government innovations in financial transactions. So that's what we're calling it right now. So first up is the cashless city hall or capital. So what can happen is the LGU can mandate Gcash payment acceptance to its revenue generating units or tax collection offices. So the phase 1 of the application would be QR acceptance for those tax offices, which we will eventually migrate to our pay bills so that users can enjoy multiple payment modes, whether pupunta sila ng City Hall to scan to pay, or they can receive their tax assessment via email na may QR din and they can scan via QR, or of course eventually open up the bills pay portion of the GCash app and find the name of their LGU there and input all their payment details. So konting discussion ng journey. All the LGU has to do, pag nagkasundo, if we have an agreement, so they issue a memo of compliance for the revenue generating offices or the tax offices. And most of the legwork is done by GCash. No? So collecting the requirements, programming the QR, deploying the QR, and of course, training all of the offices into the use of QR. Then eventually, the tech teams of GCash will program all of the needed requirements into the bills pay portion of the GCash app. So some sample alternatives on how the over-the-counter payments or scan to pay can be adapted by our LGUs. So halimbawa, we could have a tax collection method na wherein the tax assessment is received via email or courier. And then, let's say, naka-print out doon sa tax assessment mo, on the bottom, there's a printout of the QR that leads directly to a payment to that particular office. So, GCash user taxpayer will just scan that QR, no, whether hindi niya na-print out ang email or whether i-print out niya, they could scan it. So, the collecting agency receives an SMS notification as a preliminary proof of payment. And then the taxpayer, to be doubly sure, can also issue can also send their screenshot proof of payment to the concerned agency. And then the concerned agency may reply with an official receipt. So that's one application. There could be some changes depending on how the LGU wants to apply their process, but this is just more of a sample naman. No? So another example, we have ambulant collectors or payment caravans wherein we put up payment tables in the public market or plaza or accessible locations to perform scan to pay on the location. Both the collector and the taxpayer receive the notification that the payment has pushed through. And of course, the agent will issue a receipt to the taxpayer. So those are some of the applications that we can offer na pwedeng maging customer experience or taxpayer experience for our LGUs. No? Now, upgrading or migrating to a bills pay experience. So of course, this is the ideal, but it takes quite a little more time because we're programming, okay, once pinindot nila yung pay bills, ano yung gusto nyong lumabas, what offices do we list, what payment details do they need to input. But in general, the experience will be, they go to the pay bills section, they select government, then ideally it will be listed na dito, yung LGU natin. And then of course, once they select their LGU, all the payment details will come out here. For example, what type of tax will you pay for with this transaction? So there's a drop-down menu. Okay, real property, business permit renewal, etc. So these are all programmable, but of course, it takes a little while for tech teams to hook up the systems to each other, no, or to integrate the systems with each other. But yes, it is possible with GCash. So again, a little bit of the process flow. So once the scan to pay transaction is executed, again, it goes into a wallet. And then on the next banking day, the funds are swept to the LGU's official bank account. Okay, so the example here is an 800 peso tax plus a 10 peso convenience fee. So all 810 goes to the wallet, and the convenience fee is deducted by GCash once the funds are swept to the wallet. So we have a fixed rate for LGUs. If you noticed earlier, for merchants, it was a percentage fee. For LGUs, we have programmed a fixed convenience fee so as not to burden further the taxpayer. So some benefit highlights of what the LGU could stand to benefit for. Of course, safe and contactless payment acceptance, programmable remote payments with minimal human interaction. G-credit may also be accepted, and automated report settlement. So these are system generated and more transparent. And of course, bank sweeping. Same applies for our constituents. No? So if no need to go to the government center, wala nang pila. So it's where we are putting ourselves in a more safer position if we apply this. So also the cashless business sector. So some of our business sector, so yung iba hindi nakakapunta ng mga webinar, they're not hearing what some of these offers are. The LGU can help them get there. So halimbawa, through our BPLO offices or our business permit and licensing offices. So we can enable BPLOs to refer business sector constituents a cash merchant account. no? And eventually, let's say we can have the LGU earned from referral, so that it introduces those of our business sector who are not yet introduced to these types of innovations. They can have a chance to get there faster because of that introduction. So the journey is simple for the LGU. So once there is an accreditation as a referrer, then all the merchants that that consent to be referred to GCash will get a representative of GCash reaching out to them once the referral documents have been forwarded, no? And then everything else is just the usual. Pag na-collect yung requirements, then we onboard them. And then we send the merchants their QR or the negosyante their QR. No? So of course, the benefits are this referral scheme is less labor intensive for the LGU. So once the referral happens, GCash takes care of everything. And we think that the business community will appreciate a forward thinking initiative of their LGU in referring and promoting all of these cashless payments. Of course, for the safety then and continuation of our business operations. So for the merchants, it's the same then, no, safe and contactless payments, the cash handling solution, and the G credit acceptance as well. Okay, there's another offer, and this one is more connected to the aforementioned na ayuda disbursement. So since some of the LGUs are enrolling in our disbursement program, so we have connected like a tie-up to our disbursement program, wherein those beneficiaries that are enrolled via the GCash P3 or the disbursement portal can be identified as kung sino yung self-employed. So that subset of self-employed beneficiaries can be issued a QR with just a little additional requirements. So we could also have the LGU enable pati yung mga vendors natin, tricycle drivers, even taxi drivers, no, and market stall vendors to have that contactless payment that we are enabling our merchants with, no. So the journey is more on the first part is the enrollment of all those beneficiaries. So it's quite a long process depending on the number of beneficiaries, but it only takes one time to enroll everybody, and then we get to disburse to them multiple times, or even in times it establishes a database already wherein you have that list of beneficiaries, and then you can adjust, add, or subtract to that list, no? So use of the disbursement platform is anytime there is a need for aid distribution. So once you enroll everybody, you have that list already, no? So it becomes a database or registry of your vulnerable constituency. Registry also doubles as an information dissemination platform. So your GCash wallet is linked to a unique mobile number, no? So that mobile number can also be subject to text blast announcements, app notifications, wherein it also becomes a information dissemination platform. The portal is always available for new enrollments. Kung kailangan dagdagan yung listahan natin, there's always that new enrollment just waiting for the programming, no? No, so the citizens and of course the merchant subset all have the same benefits like access to a savings account and the financial services suite like G-Save, G-Credit, investment, and upcoming insurance. And of course, since may account na sila, anytime aid needs to be distributed again, it's ready for them to use. So for the subset that are self-employed, of course, all the benefits of a normal citizen, plus, of course, contactless mode of accepting payments, no? Safer storage, time-saving features. Like if you're a taxi driver or a vendor, no need to pause muna yung selling or pamamasada to pay your bills or send money, because having a GCash account enables those to be done via your phone once you are already trained to use to maximize your GCash account. So there are also other ways, no, on using your GCash account. There are others like they act like a money changer, like oy pa-exchange ng paper cash ko to GCash and my account, I'll pay you. So there are other ways to earn from this, no. Or sometimes, yung mga more enterprising natin na self-employed users, no, they accept commissions for profit. Like, uy, bayaran mo yung Meralco bill ko. Tas papatungan na lang natin because I don't want to fall in line or like spend a lot of time or bibiyahe pa ako towards the payment center. So enabling this for our citizens opens up a lot of doors for them. So just on the commercials on how LGUs, if LGUs decide to adapt. So for the bills pay and the scan to pay tax collection, the transaction service fee is 10 pesos per transaction. No, as opposed to the merchant na it's a percentage fee. And for the disbursement, it's 5 pesos per the sending of disbursement. And arming your and issuing ATM cards to your constituency is at 150 per card. So yun, so the next steps is the GCash have to come to terms, no? So some of the terms minsan may customization, what the card will look like, how the execution will be. So first we have to come to an agreement. After that, the training. And then once the training is done, enrollment can then ensue. No? So I hope that everybody got something useful from this presentation. And that's the part on the MSMEs and the LGUs and how GCash will be able to help you. So again, if there are questions, the moderators will be picking them up, and or you can send them in our Q&A chat. No? So thank you very much, and good afternoon.
Thank you, Justin, for walking us through the process of onboarding and illustrating the benefits for both MSMEs and LGUs in the use of contactless payments and GCash. Now to move on to our last speaker, to tell us how the Department of Trade and Industry can support the shift to e-commerce for MSMEs in light of the COVID pandemic. It is my pleasure to introduce Jean Pacheco, Assistant Secretary of the DTI. Jean has been with the DTI family for 21 years. In 2012, as Planning Director, she was instrumental in the adoption of the Performance Governance System, or PGS, inside the agency. Her earlier work in DTI focused on introducing innovation and institutionalizing good governance initiatives within DTI. Her current portfolio as DTI Assistant Secretary includes e-commerce, logistics and supply chain, business name registration, and legislative liaison with Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, let's please welcome Jean Pacheco, Assistant Secretary of DTI.
Hello, Sir Bill, and it's nice to see you again. And to all our local chief executives, marami pong salamat at good afternoon po sa ating lahat, and also to the SMEs who are watching here today, and of course to Globe who also invited us, and of course Sir Bill. No, I would like to make my presentation short and sweet. I only have about 5 slides, this one included. So let's proceed. The question is the question when we got the invitation is how the government can support the SMEs shift to e-commerce. So a little backstory. I have been appointed by the Secretary of Trade as the e-commerce lead last year. And in that year alone, and after COVID, I think there was an acceleration of e-commerce. So it's very interesting our answer to this particular question as we present to you now. So let's now proceed. I'd like to use the technique by my partner, Professor Ronnie Balbiran, who has a super summary of what exactly government has been doing relative to the promotion of e-commerce and the shift of small, medium enterprises. I'd like to start with number 1. We coined a tagline, basta e-commerce, madali. Medyo double meaning po siya, right? When we say basta e-commerce madali, meaning to say mabilis lang siya at hindi siya difficult, 'di ba? So yun ho yung ano natin na it's not difficult. Nandun din ho yung connotation na basta e-commerce mabilis. So yun ho yung both ways are correct. But of course tayong mga Pilipino gustong-gusto din natin yung acronym. So for us, in DTI, it's quite easy that we are able to define ano nga ba yung madali. so that we're in a way focusing our eye on the ball. So ano yung madali? Market access. Nandito ho yung e-commerce to increase access. So pag e-commerce talagang hindi mo na kailangan ng personal, physical, kahit saan pwede mo na talaga siyang makadeliver ng iyong produkto. Even cross-border, no, outside of the country. Then there's also aspect of digitalization. You have seen Globe in the first few speakers, napakita ho nila yung kanilang mga technology at saka yung tools, and that is really where we are encouraging our micro, small, medium enterprises. And of course, the third one is logistics integration. So madali. Kasi ho, we always say, and this is a realization, of course, that yung e-commerce, we always look at it as the buying and the selling. Pero tandaan ho natin na hindi ho yan dadating sa ating yung mga binili natin, hindi ho yan dadating sa atin kung hindi ho efficient yung logistics. So I'd like to report to everyone that government, as soon as I said, we were appointed last year, the Secretary of Trade gave one interesting and very clear instruction. Ang sabi niya that the DTI should focus on building trust. So e-commerce is building trust between the consumers and the merchant. So yan ho yung, we define the architecture, we define the framework, and it is very clear that that is what we want. We want to promote e-commerce so that there will be more merchants, more micro, small, and medium enterprises that will maximize this new business model being offered, and at the same time for the consumers that they will be protected kasi madami nga din po yan. So it is in the area of coming out with the strategies and the roadmap. So simply put po, medyo nagkaroon na preno lang ho ng konti. We had to sort of stop because of COVID, but we were able to really come up with an engaged private sector. We have the focus of the new updated the Philippine e-commerce roadmap for 2022 is really on the speed, security, and structure, because we know that at the end of the day, it's all about sales. So yun po yung what we are monitoring, and we have really done a very comprehensive process relative to coming out with that. So sinusulat na po natin ito, but we are, of course, there are still supplemental studies that we are doing, but we hope that the updated roadmap will be ready by end of the year. So ayan po. So in the case of the roadmap and the strategies. So what else? So what else is the government doing? So when COVID struck, ito po, nakita ho talaga natin and narinig talaga natin yung lahat tayo, we were all in the comforts of our home. But then we realized that our micro, small, medium enterprises needed to recover the business. And alam mo natin ngayon that alam natin na pati tayo lumago po yung e-commerce, no? And that's one good thing that COVID did, is to really accelerate. So during the time nung ano po yung March na declare po yung period of community quarantine, the Secretary of Trade tasked us to come up with what we call a reboot package. Bakit po reboot? For those of us, alam mo natin, it was inspired by the simple concept. Ang computer po natin, pag nag-hang, ang ginagawa ho natin, nire-reboot natin. So nandun ho, that's what we wanted. We wanted to inspire our entrepreneurs that really it's very difficult. We understand that it is something that is very challenging, what is happening to all sa mga negosyo po, no? So ang ginawa ho natin is really to help, no? Come up with a package to help our micro, small, medium enterprises to try from offline to online. Alam nyo ha, parang nagkaroon po tayo ng series of webinars. Ang tawag po natin dito is Control Biz Reboot Now. So ang ibig sabihin lang po talaga nung Control Biz is really, it's about controlling your business. And sinabi ho natin at this point in time, sino ba ho talaga ang kailangan mag-aruga nung inyong company, but the entrepreneurs themselves. So we offered a series of courses, and these courses are alam niyo po yung onboarding. Dito po, pati ho ako natuto what is onboarding, e-fulfillment, e-payment. And I'd like to, at this point in time, we could not do it ourselves. And in the true bayanihan spirit, kitang-kita ho natin the private sector in the e-commerce ecosystem. Really, they were really helping government, paying it forward and helping the private sector and the micro, small, medium enterprises. So, nandito ho, pinasasalamatan ko ho ngayon lahat ho ng mga kasama natin sa DTI na private sector na tumulong. So, allow me to thank them here. Of course, special mention po talaga si Globe, si GCash kasi nandyan po talaga. So, Air21, FedEx, Gawin in alphabetical order po. Gawin PH, GCash, Globe, Globe My Business, Google, Grab Philippines, Lala Move, Lazada, Paymaya, PLDT, QuadX, RCBC, SB Corporation, Shopee, Shopinas, TransUnion, Union Bank, Wonderman Thompson, Zalora, Zilingo. So if you notice, these are really the players in both of course, the e-commerce, the payment, the logistics, and ang ginawa po talaga nila is to share the information. They help us demystify e-commerce kasi marami sa mga micro-entrepreneurs natin ayaw mag-venture into e-commerce saying that it's difficult, it's expensive, it's not cheap, I'm not digitally equipped. But all of those we attempted to inform through information and through the assistance. Naging sabi ho natin, ang e-commerce, it's about networking. We explain to the entrepreneur, you don't have to do it all, because there are others who can do it actually for you. So yun po. And then another part po ng reboot package, kasi kinausap po namin sila. Kinausap po namin yung platforms. Ang sabi po namin, sa panahon ngayon ng COVID, pwede ba let's waive all of this onboarding fees, and we were very glad that the platforms so sabi namin sa mga micro entrepreneurs, pag pa kayo ay magpunta sa mga platform, whether it is Shopee, Lazada, yan po ay libre. So you don't have to, libre po mag-onboard. Sabi po namin yan. And then we talk to the telco. So I'm asking again, for example, Globe, no? Kasi po, in the other countries, they are offering free internet, no? At sa panahon ng COVID, sa mga ayuda ho sa mga gustong mag e-commerce. So we are talking to all of the telcos, and then we would like them also to extend that kind of a service. And then we also have discounts sa mga delivery service. So pati si FedEx, sabi ni FedEx, if you use FedEx, you can also be given mga discounts. And of course, the DTI has a CARES project with the SB Corporation, but of course, medyo nabalitaan nyo, medyo madami po talaga ang nag-apply for the loans. But we are doing our best to accommodate because of the numerous requests. So I'd like to at this point in time say that let's be a little on a positive note. Alam nyo ho, we are yung nakita po natin yung statistics. Kanina sinabi ho ng first speaker natin from Globe, sabi niya talaga that madami talaga dito sa mga Pilipino ang nag-internet, but sa totoo lang ho, I remember all of the statistics. The Filipinos, we are known as the #1 social media internet user, spending 10 hours of internet daily. We have more mobile users than we have the population. And then when we use this, unfortunately, we only use this for like Facebook or ginagamit sa Waze, manood ng video. But we actually don't use them. Only less than 10% pay online. So yun ho yung gusto namin maayos, and we are doing this not just the DTI, but of course with the other government agencies. Which brings me to my third point. Now, what else are we doing? So the focus of DTI is to digitalize SMEs and to digitize merchant payments. Ayan po, sabi, ano ba yung digitalization tsaka digitizing? Alam nyo, let me just share with you very briefly. There's a study in ASEAN na they categorize SMEs, whether they are basic, advanced, or intermediate. So yun daw yung basic, yun ito may email. And then if you are an intermediate, that means to say that you can transact online. You have a website, you are in a platform, and then but there's also on advanced na kapag gumagamit ka na ng mga analytics. So anong ginagawa po ng Department of Trade? We are now currently doing a survey to also complement our roadmap to really identify what's the categorization of SMEs. Bakit niyo kamo? Because we need to identify the proper intervention required by government to assist these SMEs. Alam niyo po, when we had the control-based reboot now sessions, we came out with a rapid assessment, and I'd like to thank Globe also, no, because Globe helped us in the survey that we also conducted, like a rapid survey. Anyway, ang nakita po talaga namin dun sa survey is madami hong merong gusto. Ang gusto talaga who is assistance. Number 1 po, website. Tama ho yun. Ang dami sa ating mga negosyante, wala man lamang website. And we know how the importance of websites in the new environment. Ang marami rin ho ang may gusto ng marketing, digital marketing. So we are able to now use this information, and makakaasa ho kayo that the department will look at that because that after having the very successful sessions on control biz, it's the instruction now of the DTI Secretary Secmon Lopez is to introduce more in-depth topics to address the needs of the SMEs. Which so ngayon po, yung isa naman nating effort dito, yung digitizing merchant payments. Ito po, I'm pleased to report to you that we are working with the Bangko Sentral together with the Philippine Chamber of Commerce, the Philippine Retailers Association, and the Philippine Franchise Association. Sila po ay nagbigay sa amin ng volunteers for a use case study because kanina Globe again did mention how to do the onboarding. So but the question is, why are not all of the merchants doing that, no? And we need to find out so that the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the DTI are now working very closely with the private sector kasi pare-pareho tayo ng what we want to achieve in the long term, which is a cashless, no? A cashless era, especially now during the time of COVID. So yun po, no? So as I've mentioned, it's really a whole of government approach. It's not just the DTI alone, but many agencies of government. Now I bring it to my last point now, which is business registration, and I am very happy that we have here the local chief executives, and of course Sir Bill and I have been working on this for a couple of years now. We know that this is the anti-red tape authority that now manages business registration. But let me give you a little bit of some interesting statistics. Ano po? Before the quarantine, kasi kami po sa DTI, kami po yung if you are a sole proprietor, your first step is to get your business name. And the DTI is the business registration. We manage that particular system. Alam niyo po, because of this e-commerce focus, we decided to look at the statistics. Prior to COVID, about January to March, we follow the Philippine Statistical Industry Classification, or what we call the PSIC. And there's an item there that's actually 47,913. That means retail sale via the internet. Alam niyo ho, nung January to March 15, yan, prior po yan ng COVID, we had about, yan, pinakita na yung slide. So ito na yung slide. It's about 1,700, 1,400. Pero tingnan nyo na ho ngayon, no? It's now 33,657. Okay, so grabe po yung dumami. Sobrang dami po ng nag-register dito. So, we have been receiving some inquiries from local governments na baka pwedeng mag-link kay DTI business name. So, ako po we are open to this to all the mayors out there listening. We are thinking, kasi sabi po to ng mga constituents na nagre-register ng online. Sabi po nila na syempre, online yung business namin, it will be best kung pati po sana yung registration sa local government when they get the mayor's permit, online din. So kami po ay DTI, we are very, very happy. And Glo and GCash, si GCash po talaga, they were there when we started it. Kami po 8 minutes, end to end. You don't need to go to the DTI office or any negosyo center. You can do it from your mobile phone. Just have your name and then you have a GCash. Then you pay and then you get your registration, your business name registration. So there are local government units who apparently are also online. But I would like to extend this and maybe we can start the discussion. Kasi baka naman po mas mapapadali po yung sistema natin sa mga online businesses na to kung pwede dire-diretso na nga din po. So we are certainly open to that particular integration. We can discuss that. So that's my call on the local chief executive. So really, it's about a whole of government approach from the Department of Trade and Industry, e-commerce. But of course, I'd like to end with my last slide. The last slide, as you all know, when the president actually did the SONA, the president in his State of the Nation address, talaga pong he promoted a bill that is currently pending in Congress, but it is moving. It is authored by Congressman Gatchalian. It's called the Internet Transactions Act. Ang act po na to focuses on both consumer protection and of course promoting the growth of e-commerce in the country. So as I've mentioned, it is a whole of government approach. Even the legislative branch is helping to promote e-commerce. And then you can see here many relevant provisions, including, of course, the creation of an e-commerce bureau that tututok po dito sa ating e-commerce. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone, Liveable Challenge, the lab. Thank you so much, Sir Bill, for inviting us. And of course, I'd like of course to invite everyone to please contact us. You know po, dahil ho dito sa COVID, we were able to appreciate the need for us to be more social media friendly, so to speak. So lahat po ng mga nakikinig ngayon sa Facebook, I think we are covered ng Facebook. Lahat po ng mga sessions namin, you can look at it, no? Both in Facebook, you just look at DTI e-commerce, and then meron na rin po kaming DTI YouTube channel. So we are also inviting you to please, if you have a YouTube, just go to YouTube and then DTI Philippines, meron na pong DTI YouTube channel. And of course, meron po kaming website, ecommerce.dti.gov.ph. All of the details that I have mentioned, greater details are all in those social media sites, and we hope that you will tatangkilikan po ninyo. And should there be any issue that you'd like to ask, the e-commerce office of the DTI will be glad to assist you in any way we can. So maraming salamat po on behalf of the Department of Trade and Industry. Thank you po.
Thank you, Jean, for showing us and walking us through how DTI is helping MSMEs move and transition into e-commerce. I'm also glad to see so many companies are helping you in this project, because I think, as you said, by any hand style, no MSME can do this alone, but with the help of so many other players, should be able to find solutions from logistics to fulfillment to payment and so on and so forth. So thank you very much, Jean, for that. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, all of this requires some technology infrastructure to make all of this possible. If it weren't, we're gonna need bandwidth, we're gonna need speed, we're gonna need access for more and more people, both the e-commerce players, the merchants, but the customers as well, and cities, of course, will need the bandwidth and the infrastructure required in their own city. So let's watch this video to see what role technology infrastructure has to play.
Malaking bahagi ang ginagampanan ng internet sa buhay nating mga Pilipino, lalo na ngayong panahon ng new normal. Pero hindi lahat kayang makipagsabayan, lalo na sa mga lugar na hindi naaabot o sadyang walang maayos na signal. Kaya naman, Ang mga telco katulad ng Globe, maigting na nakikipagtulungan sa mga LGU para maisaayos na ang signal at serbisyo para kay Juan. Pero ano nga ba talaga ang dahilan ng mabagal at pawala-walang internet connection? Digitalization requires reliable connectivity. Kapag mas maraming cell sites sa isang lugar, mas malakas din ang signal na maibabato para sa voice, data at SMS services. Pero nalilimitahan ang pagpapatayo ng mga ito dahil sa iba't ibang mga rason. Sa ngayon, napipilitang maghati-hati ang maraming internet users sa Pilipinas sa signal na kayang ibato ng kada isang cell site kumpara sa mga kalapit nating bansa sa Asia. Sa pinakabagong datos ng Globe nitong second quarter ng 2020, mas madalas nang gumamit ng data ang mga Pilipino. Mas malaki ito ng 48% kumpara noong 2019 o katumbas ng 584 petabytes ng data na dumadaan sa Globe Network. Bakit nga ba hindi tayo makapagpatayo ng mas maraming cell sites?
The bureaucratic red tape is enormous. There really isn't any mechanism to make sure that permits are granted in a predictable, consistent, and of course time-bound way. If anyone objects to a cell site being put up in a neighborhood, the whole thing stops.
Sa kabila nito, sinisikap pa rin ng Globe na mas mapabilis at mas maparami pa ang mga naitatayong cell sites kada taon para sa pagpapalawig ng mas epektibong network rollout. Sa katunayan, naglaan ng Globe ng $1.2 billion in capital expenditures o CAPEX kung saan ang majority nito ay napunta sa network at capacity builds. Sa kasalukuyan, nasa 34.2% na ang CAPEX to revenue ratio ng Globe. Nagpo-provide ito ng latest cellular technology na 4G o LTE sa milyon-milyon nitong subscribers. At nito lang nakaraang taon, inilunsad ang 5G service para sa Globe at Home na magiging available na rin sa mobile sa mga susunod na buwan.
5G promises to be a revolutionary development on networks. A sharp break from 2, 3, 4G to a completely different infrastructure and architecture.
Sa naganap na press briefing sa Malacanang, naglabas ng panukala ang gobyerno para mas mapabilis ang pag-i-issue ng mga permit.
Dito po sa bagong GMC namin, kasama yung lahat ng ahensya, pati LGU, 16 days to 20 days po ang target para yung lahat ng permit ay tatakbo.
Ipinaliwanag ng pamunuan ng Globe Telecom ang karaniwang mga suliranin sa pagpapatayo ng cell sites sa Pilipinas.
We are suffering from many years of this 25 to 29 permits, umabot ng 8 buwan. Tapos marami pa kung kaming mga miscellaneous fees po, iba-ibang klaseng tower fee. Meron kaming special use permit.
Ang order ko sa cabinet ngayon is to really take the drastic measure that you can find.
Handa rin makipagtulungan ng Globe sa mga LGU para sa pag-streamline ng proseso.
Well, our objective is to transform people's lives. It's part of our purpose as a company. What we look for are, say, willing LGUs. Help comes really allowing us to build. No red tape with respect to permits or right of way, no special fees. That is what I think will be a catalyst for us to continue to build.
Sa pamamagitan ng digital transformation initiatives ng Globe, mas marami pang mga Pilipino ang makararanas ng mas maayos, mas mabilis, at mas makabuluhang digital experience.
Okay, thank you very much. Now let's proceed to the last part of our session this afternoon, the panel discussion and the open forum. And I notice a lot of questions have started coming in. Let me reintroduce our panelists today. Francis Kaluya, Industry Marketing Manager for Hotels, Restaurants, and Cafes at Globe My Business. Mr. Paco Magsaysay, CEO of Carmen's Best. Justin Yap, Head of Acquisition for Non-Traditional Merchants at GCash. Jean Pacheco, Assistant Secretary, Department of Trade. And let me also invite Mr. Vince Temponco, Vice President for Site Acquisition and Management for Globe Telecom, and Vince was a speaker at our session 2 weeks ago and spoke about infrastructure. Okay, there's a question here. It's understood that not all products, especially tangible goods, are easily provided in terms of specs and quality. Is there any policy to run after the online suppliers or providers? If none, there should be one. Maybe let me direct this to ASEC Jean. What happens if a merchant doesn't meet a promise, no? Or doesn't spell out its specifications?
So the question is basically it refers to a consumer's right to redress, correct?
Right, correct.
Right, right. So I'd like to clarify to everyone that there is a Consumer Act of the Philippines, and the Consumer Act of the Philippines is the enabling act that the DTI continues to enforce even today, regardless of whether you buy online or offline. So the law is still the same. So this is important because the only thing that's different now is that when you buy if you buy online, there's a greater risk that if you complain, then we cannot run after them. Government cannot run after them because they disappear or they're not already there. This is the reason why I go back to the Internet Transactions Act and the need. If you've noticed about you are very well familiar with the many comments about the requirement made by the BIR Revenue Memorandum Circular requiring online sellers to register with the BIR. You see, that is really a good point, and we really supported that because we have to know the online sellers where they are located, so that when they renege on their promises as a seller, then the consumer has a right for redress, whether you want to return it, exchange for it, or a refund. Those are the same avenues for redress.
Okay, thanks, ASEC Jean. Let me move to Francis. There's a question here, Francis. What categories of SMEs do you think will be the big winners in this COVID-19 fueled shift to e-commerce? And which of the shifts do you think will stick? Are some of these like temporary or fads, or will we go back to our old ways, or will there be winners long term in this?
Okay, so for the past couple of months, we've been seeing that immediately retail, especially home and personal care, as well as medical supplies, have been benefiting from the shift to e-commerce. Food service, because dine-in has not been allowed or has been prohibited, have also begun to shift to e-commerce. Interestingly enough, we've been seeing several wholesalers getting into e-commerce to sell directly to consumers. So e-commerce is not only another platform, it's a way for businesses, for SMEs, to now completely rethink their business model. Maybe the service industry will find it hard to shift to e-commerce because a lot of services still need face-to-face interface. So we're looking at salons and spas. I can't imagine an e-commerce model at this moment for businesses in that sector. In terms of how businesses are also pivoting, we're looking at Sipacos. Carmen's Best is actually now tapping community sellers. So instead of going to their institutional accounts, instead of going straight to consumers, they are now also being wholesalers themselves. So it's important that the community sellers are also well-versed in e-commerce so that they can also take advantage of the benefits. Now, in terms of who will likely shift back to their older traditional ways, I can see this clearest with restaurants. Because for restaurants, a big chunk of their revenue will still come from dine-in. And so likely, as dine-in is slowly re-allowed and reintroduced again, we'll expect a couple of drop-off coming from food service businesses. As expected, those who shifted to e-commerce during the pandemic, some of them might shift back to traditional depending on whether or not they can keep their brick and mortar store active, whether or not they can sustain their physical foot traffic. But in any case, I think e-commerce will be a crucial tool for businesses in any industry.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Francis. Paco, you know, you've got a great product, ice cream, and it's one of my, you know, it's one of my favorite ice creams. But it's not a product that most people would associate with e-commerce and with delivery. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your ability to deliver ice cream? But more importantly, if I live, say, in Davao, can I still order your ice cream? Because I know that you guys are based in on Luzon and selling mainly in Metro Manila. Can I buy ice cream if I'm outside Manila?
Yeah, good question, Bill. Actually, ice cream is not a product that's normally delivered to the client or to the customer. It's only now that we really started looking at doing this, the e-commerce platform, simply because we didn't want to compete directly with the groceries that were selling our ice cream, you know, the past several years. So we really did not want to get on an e-commerce platform because we didn't want the grocery accounts to think that we were competing with them. So when the lockdown happened in mid March, that was the only time that we, you know, looked at the possibility and the fact that we had to find another way of selling our product. You know, our ice cream is packed in pint sizes. So in terms of transport, it's easier to transport the pint. We just need to have it, you know, kept at a certain temperature for the duration of the trip to have the product delivered. In terms of Davao, whether it's Davao, Cagayan de Oro, Cebu, Baguio, Pampanga, we have resellers there. We've been selling in those areas for the past few years. In terms of delivery, we primarily rely on a courier like a Lala Move or a Grab Foods that allow us to use a thermal bag because not all of the delivery companies allow using a thermal bag, you know. So in the provinces, we might not have the same delivery service as we do have in Metro Manila, but we have presence in the provinces. I think another question that I saw earlier was, why did I choose the Rush e-store of the Globe Group through the 917 Ventures? And our primary reason to doing that was because there was no huge upfront cost to change our current website into an e-commerce site. You know, it's something as low as 2,500 a month for a startup kit. And also the main thing was the fact that we could tie up with a logistics group. So being part of the Rush, the e-store of Globe, there's a tie-up with a logistics group that will help us with logistics. Because our logistics is primarily trucks to deliver to our resellers before, not really the smaller vehicles like motorcycles or what, to deliver to each customer. You know, so for us to get into that would be too costly. And yeah, I don't think we were looking to do that anyway. So that's the reason why we chose to work with the Globe Group.
Thanks, Pat. So in sum, when you went to Rush, your e-store, you got logistics, and then and on top of that, you had a digital cash payment window as well, right?
Yes, with a credit card facility.
With a credit card facility. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Let me shift first to Justin. Justin has a question here about concerning LGUs, and maybe there's a mayor who might wish to answer this. How do we go about in meeting COA guidelines? I think we can see how cashless payments work for merchants, but in cashless payments for LGUs, for instance, how do we issue electronic receipts and meet all the COA guidelines?
So for our discussions with LGUs currently, what we clarify for them first and foremost is that GCash for now is a pass-through. The payment is just passing through the GCash platform. So all of those transactions have logs, but we cannot be the issuer of the official receipt, as we are not the ones that the last acceptance of payment goes to. So it still has to be on the side of the LGU to issue the official receipt. Now, as demonstrated earlier, all of the transactions will have logs digitally. So both on the side of the payer and the side of the LGU as a quote-unquote merchant, and of course the accompanying digital reports. So and for the COA guidelines, I think it still remains to be discussed, going deeper into specifics on what is the format that is acceptable as a digital official receipt, what details should be included in the receipt. But in another way, we could also apply what was set as an example earlier, wherein you can have a scan copy of what is currently the LGU receipt sent over a digital platform. So that's the earliest adaptation that could be seen from our point. But if there is already an LGU exploring digital format of receipts, then yeah, we could work on how to incorporate it into the whole customer experience.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Yeah, so the in the final analysis, it's not really GCash which will issue the receipt because you're the pass-through mechanism. It must be the LGU that will release the receipt, correct?
Yes, the onus is on GCash to show that what passed through the platform gets to LGU's bank account.
Right, right. Okay, thank you. I have a number of questions here for ASEC Jean. One has to do with the COA, if you can see there. But the other one is in your roadmap for assisting businesses in transitioning to e-commerce. You gave us the plans, but is there a specific time frame? Is like, for instance, was there a target number of businesses that you wanted to get online, within any given year or quarter or semester? And there's a question about last mile delivery services in other regions. How can MSMEs from outside Metro Manila participate and get into e-commerce? Are last mile services competitive in terms of pricing and availability in the provinces?
I'll just try to go very briefly. I do remember because there is let's go first with the COA. Can I just
Sure.
add? There is a COA regulation that was issued, I believe, in 2013. And it allows for government to issue e-receipts. In fact, this is the reason why the DTI, we've been working so long with Globe. So if you go and get your business name registration, we give you a receipt. It's an electronic receipt. So in other words, we've done it, and it's accepted, and there's current COA regulations relative to that. But of course, I don't quite understand on the local government side of it, and you're correct. Maybe the local government can elucidate on that. But I do know that there is already a COA regulation. On the second aspect, as to is there a target? As a matter of fact, there is a target. But I'd like to maybe just let's not announce the target yet.
I was going to say, Jean, you better be careful. I'm going to hold you to your target.
So what I'd like to request, maybe if you can indulge me with a bit, because we are the plan is to have the roadmap finished by end of the year, and there are certain baseline surveys that we are actually conducting. But I can give you the metrics that we are looking at. Of course, we want to increase the number of online merchants, right? So that's something that we'd like to see. More increased number of online merchants. Of course, we'd also like to see the number of e-commerce shoppers. We'd like to see that as well. So there are many studies available on the percentage of internet users, but we'd also like to see the number of those that actually buy online, right? So those are metrics that we'd like, and of course the usual metric that studies like Google, it's called the gross merchandise value of GMV that monitor. So in Google, according to Google, in terms of internet retail or e-commerce, GMV in the Philippines is $2 billion in 2019, and in 2025 it's about it's 20. The projection is $12 billion. That's the projection for the sales, no, GMV. So we would like to basically look into that. And I have to tell you also something, Sir Bill, because we have been greatly inspired by remember, we would always do our benchmarking in terms of the EODB, our ranking with the rest of the world. So I have kind of brought that here in the e-commerce, and we are looking at a survey. It's called the e-commerce B2C, UNCTAD B2C Index. And there are 4 indicators there that we are actually monitoring in terms of the ranking. So those are the metrics that I can share with you. And then maybe you can invite us again when we can give you the targets and the numbers.
Sure.
Did I
thanks.
miss any more? Yeah. Did I miss?
Thanks, Asik Jean, for that. I think count on the help of the private sector to help you map out the ecosystem and set some targets, and help you not only set targets but meet targets. Because
That's right.
It's not only the number of shoppers and the merchandise value, but we need the underlying infrastructure behind it, which is going to be logistics and payments and fulfillment mechanisms and things like this. No, but thanks for that. How about would you have any view to how good last mile services are, fulfillment services are in the provinces? Because I think that will help spur growth in the provinces for e-commerce.
Okay.
Any idea?
Okay. So if you look at our work plan for logistics, we do agree that especially our archipelagic nature. We have been really informed by our last mile providers of the really need to have, because that's they say it's a weakest link, so to speak. So I'd rather focus on we know that there is such a problem, but we are focusing on one solution that we'd like to focus on, which is the Philippine Postal Corporation, Sir Bill. We are looking at hopefully we'd like to see the Philippine Postal Corporation as being efficient as the U.S. Postal Service, which operates like a FedEx. You see, we realize that the Philippine Postal Corporation has the most assets. They have warehouses in unserved areas, and these warehouses, for example, can be used by our last mile providers. We have been talking to companies like QuadX, like Lalamove, Grab, the delivery services. And then they are always telling us about the need for us to take a look at our warehousing. That's one of the key sectors that the government is looking. So that being the case, the DTI is working, in fact, with the USAID. We are focusing on identifying the warehouses where they are, and of course, as I said, working with to strengthen the Philippine Postal Corporation, because as you can see, last mile is really a very important component of the e-commerce ecosystem.
Okay, great, thanks. So it looks like there's a PPP opportunity between Philippine Postal Corporation and private companies. Great, excellent.
Yes, we just check on the modalities.
Okay, let me shift to Vince. There's a question here, Vince, as to how can people jump on an e-commerce platform when our internet is so slow? How would you like to respond to that and explain how you'd like to bring up internet speed?
Okay, was it 2 weeks ago that I was here? Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. I've actually shared that the main reason for the slow internet that we're experiencing right now in the Philippines is mainly the lack of cell sites or towers in the country. As mentioned, we have over 4,000 users per cell site versus maybe 700, I think, for Vietnam and the other neighboring countries. So we are clamoring for help, and we are encouraged and now expect, given the support that President Duterte has given us, that we expect that the LGUs will hasten the release of the permits. As mentioned by Secretary Anyo in that video earlier, there is this JMC that the ICT has crafted together with the relevant agencies and departments. And this JMC streamlines the permitting process across the various agencies, government agencies. And the rule that we are looking at is a 3-7-20 rule, wherein the barangay has 3 days to release the permits. The national government agencies such as CAAP have 7 days, whilst the LGU have 20 days to release the permits. So with the support of the LGUs, we can build more sites, thus increasing our internet speeds in the country, whether you are in the cities or in the other areas.
Okay, thanks, Vince. Maybe you can let the audience know a little bit about the difference between the ratios of number of users to cell towers in the Philippines versus, say, a country like Vietnam, for instance.
Okay. Yeah.
That'll tell people what the effect is on speed.
Sure. In the Philippines, we have a total of about 18,000 towers across Globe, Smart, and now Dito. Dito has a few hundreds sites. And whilst in Vietnam, okay, you're looking at 90,000 towers. Okay. And Vietnam's population is much smaller than the Philippines. So basically what's happening right now is we have for every cell site, we have 4,000 subscribers or people sharing one tower, whilst in Vietnam, they have only 700 people sharing one tower. So you can just imagine the discrepancy in the speeds due to the lack of towers in the Philippines.
Thanks, Vince. So I think what we can see is that Vietnam's got 5 times the number of towers that we do, and also maybe roughly an eighth or a fifth of the number of users per tower. So less congestion, I think, is what we're seeing in Vietnam, and more speed. Okay, we're coming to a close, and I'd just like to ask maybe 2 quick questions here to give an opportunity. One's for Justin on the matter of the fees, how it works. On the one hand, you had one model where if a customer pays a merchant, there's no fee charged to the customer, but the fee is charged to the merchant, which is a percentage. But but it's the reverse if it's an LGU. The customer paying the LGU pays for the transaction fee. Can you just explain that a little more clearly so people understand who's bearing the cost of the fees and what the fees are?
So normally, from a bills pay standpoint, I think it's industry practice. Like even if you go to a bayad center to have to pay your electric bill or utility bill, the convenience fee is passed on to the payer. So since the LGUs are adopting the same type of payment schemes, we are just the QR team is adopting that bills pay practice, wherein the fees are fixed because for one thing, tax assessments are varying. So it's not also a fixed cost for our taxpayers. So first you have to go through an assessment, and then before you find out how large or how little your tax is. So applying a percentage fee to that just kind of messes up some of the math in the system. So I think it's more convenient for everyone. Our policy making is just to adapt to that fixed fee charging. And in terms of having it being borne by the taxpayer, it's also we kind of copied on the industry practice as well. Same with the physical bills pay centers, and even in our current bills payments with utilities, we have that communication before you press the confirmation on sending the payment. There is a information on the charging of that convenience fee.
Okay, and then Justin, the crediting of the funds into a merchant account or the government account is immediate or one day after and the debiting from the payer's account is immediate or one day after?
The debiting from the payer's account is immediate. It's also immediate in the virtual wallet, crediting to the LGU, but crediting it to their bank takes one banking day. So if the payment is made on a Friday, you will expect to see the funds on a Monday.
On a
For
Monday.
example, given that that Monday is not a holiday as well. So
Right.
that's kind of the flow of crediting. For the posting, it varies on the partner. So because some accounting systems have to take times into consideration in terms of posting. So it varies with the biller.
Thank you. I'll have another question here for both Francis and ASIC Jean. It's a bit of a sensitive question. It has to do with taxes and a tax on an e-commerce transaction at a time when people are making the shift and trying to let their businesses survive. What's your take on that? I know ASIC Jean, I put you a bit on the spot, but between Francis and ASIC Jean, what's your take on tax on e-commerce transactions, on online sales?
Can I answer ahead?
Yes, please.
I think it's it might come as a shock to a lot of online sellers because this is the e-commerce space is something relatively new, at least in the for businesses. We've been relying on the physical stores, but as ASIC G mentioned earlier, it's really at the end of the day for us to be able to monitor and protect the consumers, and so that the government can really have a way to track the businesses that are selling online. So I think there's a little bit of balancing act that has to happen for us to, as a country, to really harness the power of e-commerce. So we understand that parang si Globe My Business kasi is in the middle. We understand the government's need to do things like this, but we also understand the challenges that the SMEs face. No? So it's something that we have to consistently work together on so that the policies around e-commerce, laws and regulations around it are acceptable to both the government, the SMEs, and everyone involved.
Okay, thanks, Francis. Jean, you may skip the question. Don't incriminate yourself.
Of course, Sir Bill, we are in government, and we know that we know why taxes are collected. It is for a reason, and we need those taxes to fund, especially at this point in time. That's what taxes are for. So I do understand, and that's why governance is really difficult, because it has really to be a balancing act. Let me just probably use this opportunity to kind of clarify certain things. Many are saying about, how difficult it is, but in fact, we'd like to focus on the issue of registration versus the taxation, right? Not all under the train law. If the business is below 250,000, you actually don't pay your taxes. No, that's not So we're saying that when we ask you to register, it's really for the protection of the consumers. And what we want people to realize, that when you register your company, you become entitled to many things. You want, at the end of the day, you want your business to prosper. And you cannot prosper if you are in the informal sector. You want to borrow and get funds and avail of government programs. So those are the value of getting registered by government. So yes, we would like to request the public to understand, of course, the need for government to really, but we are sympathetic, and government is mindful, that we need to only those that should pay. And being in e-commerce, it's the same as any industry. You know what I mean, sir? It's not, we do not have a different standard just because it's e-commerce. We have to make sure that e-commerce is another vehicle, it's another model. But but there. So before I incriminate myself any further.
No, thank you, Jean. Thanks for being so game to answer the question. I know it's a very tough question to answer given your position. Let me save the last question for Paco. Paco, you're right in the middle of this journey, transitioning from a brick and mortar business into e-commerce, and also shifting from selling to institutional buyers and then selling more through community resellers and moving into a delivery market for ice cream of all things, which most people don't associate with e-commerce. We're more used to receiving, pizzas and Chinese food maybe, but not ice cream. So what advice would you give for MSMEs out there who need to make this transition or who would like to make the transition, but they don't know how? What advice would you give them?
Okay, that's a great question, because you're right. I mean, people don't really expect ice cream to be delivered. It's primarily pizza, burgers, and Chinese food. But on our part, I think from day one, we set out to make the best ice cream we could make. And so just differentiate your product that people will look for our product in particular. I mean, there are a lot of other ice cream manufacturers out there. But because the fact that we differentiate our product by making it so good, we're hoping that we will tap into the senses of people who are looking for high quality and good ice cream. I think it's also difficult, the fact that the logistics issue of it, it has to be frozen the whole time. It's an added burden for us. But the fact that, we've been in the market for 9.5 years, and we have enough loyal customers to be looking for our product. And if our delivery was an average of, let's say, 20 to 40,000 pesos per drop-off delivery for commercial accounts, now our average delivery is lower at maybe 5 or 10,000, but much more drop-offs per day. So even though that, it's changing, times are changing, we still always have to keep an eye on the good that's happening, which is, we're serving the A market, and the A market happen to be the people who are on the e-commerce platform, who are on mobile banking, who are on GCash. So we're fortunate in a sense that that's the market that we serve. So we're just trying to serve our customers and our clients the best way we can and adjust to the times.
Thanks, Paco. We've come to the end of a great forum. I'd like to thank all our speakers and panelists for their insights and thoughts. I think if there's something we learned here is that, people who make this shift from their traditional business to the e-commerce platform are really looking for something where they can bundle some services together. And typically, I guess it's an electronic storefront, a payment system, a logistics system, so you don't have to invest in all of those things, and you can concentrate on your product and your developing variants of your product and focusing on your product differentiation. So I think that's something that maybe all MSPs can spend more time thinking about it, looking at the experience of Paco and others who've made this shift. I'm confident that the ecosystem is growing, the infrastructure is getting better. I think we need more support to really push for faster permitting and licensing, not only for cell sites, by the way, which give us better infrastructure, but even for business permits in itself, so that businesses can continue and participate in the economy. So thank you very much to our panelists and speakers for their insights. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's session. Before we formally close our program, we would like to share with you a tribute video to all Filipino SMEs from Globe My Business. Globe My Business honors the hard work and resilience of the Filipino MSMEs, especially during these challenging times. Thank you and good afternoon, and enjoy the video.
The sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there'll be sun. Just thinking about tomorrow clears away the cobwebs and the sorrow till there's none. When I'm stuck with the day that's gray and lonely, I just stick out my chin and grin.